that I've reached an unimaginable level of fame and fortune, I think it's important to keep myself grounded by returning to my roots, to where it all began, to give credit to those who helped me get to where I am today. You might be wondering whom I'm referring to. The cow, my friends, my family. But today, I'm actually thanking Classically Abby by revisiting her content years later and criticising her quite heavily. Thanks, Abby! In 2020/2021, Abby Roth, formerly Abby Shapiro, yep, that Shapiro,
yeah, you eppin' with some wet-ass P-word. P-word is female genitalia.
took YouTube by storm by paying for her videos to be pushed as ads.
Wow.
She proclaimed that it was the time for conservative women, their time to shine, because, you know, they're woefully underrepresented.
You've been forgotten and left behind as magazines and movies decided you're outdated. You've been told that the best way to be a woman is to act more like a man. You've been told that you don't care about women because you care about a child in her womb. You've been told that sleeping around is empowering, but waiting till marriage is ridiculous. You've been told that believing in God is passé. You've been silenced about your views.
But not anymore.
She was newly married, conservative, and classic, and she wanted the whole world to know about it. She was coming out. It was stunning and brave. Since then, she's had 2 kids and gotten worse and worse day by day. I want to mention, actually, just as I started writing this video, my friend Jen of Fundie Fridays put out a sequel to her Classically Abby video. So, anywho, now that I've introduced Abby, I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Tara Mooney, and this is the only channel on YouTube where all videos are written and produced by a cow. She couldn't be in the video today because she's actually getting her tubes tied. She is a child-free woman and she wants to remain that way, as is her prerogative.
That's my prerogative.
But if you like and subscribe, she might appear in the next video. It's been 3 years since Abby's moment on YouTube, and she's been booked and busy. She's had kids, moved to Florida, and has spoken at colleges about prioritizing staying at home and caring for children.
Every message we get in this modern hustle culture, outside of our religious communities and our own intuition, tells us to throw real purpose out the window in favor of what amounts to a careerist grind. True success is climbing the totem pole, or being famous, or making lots and lots of money, or even just living in a perpetual treat yourself mindset for your personal fun and ease, to the detriment of everything else. Where does this lie come from? Unironically, Marxism.
Huh?
Yeah, you know, Marx, huge fan of hustle culture.
Knowledge.
He was alive today, he'd be a crypto bro, linked influencer for sure. But yeah, she really thinks that everyone should have children. Probably even this guy. Well, especially every woman should have children. Not trans women, God forbid, no. Because they reinforce stereotypical womanhood, unlike Abby.
Welcome to today's video, where we're going to be talking about 5 femininity mistakes I've made.
So, as you can see, Abby presents many paradoxes, by which I mean she contradicts herself all the time and operates on double standards. Jesus Christ on a bike! I guess that's how one says goodbye. Classically. But wait, we're not done yet. We're just getting started. Hi! So, in some countries, it's considered rude to show your hole right to the camera. No, I need those to make a point in a minute. I'm just gonna hold them. So, classic just means French, right? I had a joke written, where I was gonna be like, a classic mug, but it wasn't funny, so I cut it. But this is my excuse to segue into the part I wrote, which said, speaking of mugs, I've started pottery as a hobby, so I make things like mugs now. Abby has mentioned numerous times how important it is to be a homemaker, and I think I'm doing a great job of making kitsch little things to warm up the home. So yeah, so here are some ring holders I've made, a little body vase or pot, and then this little guy, girl, or non-binary person. But you know, being a homemaker doesn't come naturally to everyone like it does for Abby and I, which is why Abby is on YouTube to tell you how. The purpose of Abby's 2020 marketing push was to push forward the female conservative movement and subculture of being classic. What does it mean to be classic? No, not that. Let's hear Abby's definition.
It really depends on the kind of person. For me, I really love doing my makeup, so that is a way for me to take care of my looks and look my best. If you're not someone who's into my next piece of advice is that you should always try and smell nice. I know that sounds really funny, but I think that smelling nice is a really classic thing. I love the idea of having a signature scent. I kind of have a couple. I mean, you can see, I think wearing a watch is like the most classic thing you can do as a woman. I love wearing watches.
Actually, this is gonna take forever, so let's just hear Jen's summary.
The wife, flattering clothes with feminine details. Classic her, smelling nice. Getting a haircut, Audrey Hepburn. Wall art, red nails on Valentine's Day, twinkly lights, fake plants and candles. Kate Middleton, having strong values. Pearls, breast health. Nikki Haley, having a signature scent. Decorating your home. Margaret Thatcher, color palettes. Reading, especially reading in a coffee shop. Knitting, being a good hostess. Plastic surgery, if you've had a baby. Cooking, having a good relationship with your mother. Gardening, singing, jewelry making. Carrying around a fancy glass when you drink. Going to Disney World during a pandemic. Shakespeare. Wearing a watch that is not digital. A Fitbit is okay. Taylor Swift before she became an SJW. Being good with children. Drinking with your husband. And butter dishes.
And I think having a butter dish is just so classic.
Thanks, Jen. You took one for the team. But yeah, basically it means aspiring to traditional femininity and rejecting modern day feminism. And that isn't me putting words into her mouth. That's what she said. That's what she said. Ayo. Anyway, roll the clip.
Classic means tradition refined. It means elegance and being poised and rejecting the idea of modern feminists, which is you can dress however you want, you can dress slovenly and never wash your hair, and every time is wine o'clock, and not taking seriously how wonderful it is to be a really feminine woman.
Now, you might want to ask, isn't this Tradwife content? Well, Abby distinguishes her classic crew from Tradwives. I would say Abby is correct in doing so.
Being a mother, having work, being classic, all those things work together. From what I've seen on Twitter, trad is something a little bit different. It really emphasizes the idea of a submissive wife and a husband who goes out and supports her. And the gender roles in that scenario are very specified and very specific. He supports them, she stays home and takes care of the kids, does all the chores. He's not allowed to help her with the chores because that's not really his role. And what it ends up doing is it really alienates the women who want to be feminine and want to be classic or maybe even traditional by saying if you have a job or you aren't the one who's doing 100% of the chores, you aren't traditional.
Tradwives have a track record of going to some very, very dark places. And again, Jen's video goes into this in much more detail. That isn't to say that Abby doesn't have some dangerous views like her transphobic ones, that she's embraced publicly more as of recent. I just don't think she could join ultra trad con circles even if she wanted to, because they're racist as hell, and she's a Jewish woman. Weirdly though, in the past, she has promoted Mrs.Midwest, who has followed in the past and given permission for certain pages to use her likeness. And by certain pages, I mean white is right accounts. I'm not sure if Abby is aware of this, but it's a humongous yikes. Anyways, I would say that calling Abby a tradwife would be an oversimplification. It ignores the subtle differences. Yes, some of her views on tradition and femininity do cross over, but I would say that her views on hetero partnerships are less draconian, even at this time when she has become more outwardly traditional. And this isn't me saying that we should give Abby a trophy, because that's a low bar. She just doesn't think wives should have to constantly be making sandwiches in silence. The bar is in hell. And here's the thing, she's only gotten more dogmatic and closed-minded since becoming a parent. And you might think I'm being harsh by correlating the two, but they are connected. I think her stint in motherhood has made her all the more self-righteous. Again, I sound harsh, but she is by definition self-righteous about motherhood.
Motherhood is a vocation worthy of respect, more than not motherhood. Okay?
I call a spade a spade. Before it was birth control is fine in marriage. Now it's the pill triggers abortions, which is not true.
I put out a video a long time ago saying like, it doesn't work for me. If it works for you, that's fine, but it doesn't work for me. That was before I learned that being on the pill can cause early abortions.
No. Before it was, let's not leave working women out of being classic.
There are some women who need to work to help support their families, and there are some women who choose to work because they love their jobs. And those things are completely valid and can totally fit into the classic lifestyle.
Now it's working full-time is prioritizing girl bossing over motherhood.
Because I think we turn motherhood into something anyone can do, which anyone can do motherhood, but not. And this is controversial, not everyone does it well, because not everyone prioritizes it. My husband and I were actually talking about this, that like, you're not allowed to say that somebody who devotes their entire life to parenting is in any way superior to somebody who puts girl bossing at the forefront of their priority list and puts motherhood second.
Abby, most families can't afford to live on a single income. And you reject the very policies and social programs that would make it easier for mums to stay at home with their kids.
And I had to be available for my toddler while pregnant with my second child. But that is in many ways different than having to be in an office and having to function when you are throwing up, when you are sick, when you are debilitated. And I was just so grateful for the opportunity to be working from home, to be able to be on my own schedule, and for me to start recognizing what my real duties were. Not the work, not even classically Abby, but being able to function well enough to grow that baby healthily.
Oh, she almost gets it. So close, Abby. You're so close. And I know that these talking points are nothing new to my audience, but I would genuinely love to hear Abby's response to them, because conveniently, she and figures like her never seem to acknowledge them.
Like in any other job, we can say that someone is better at their job. We can say that they work harder and they put in more time and they get recognized. You can't do that with motherhood because it's such a sensitive topic. What I'm talking about is not so much about like, you're doing it right and you're doing it wrong, because there's so many different ways to parent, right? There's like gentle parenting, there's more discipline, there's like all these different sleep training, not sleep. There's a million different ways to parent, but the priority list matters. And saying that it doesn't really undermines the women who have said, this is the most important job and I'm going to put it at the top of my list.
You assume that what you think is true, but someone could easily raise you a study that found that daughters of working mums are more educated and earn more money. Now, I know Abby doesn't aspire to that, but how about the multiple studies citing the benefits of working mothers for children? It's important to remember that there are other factors as well. As pointed out by Raquel Fernandez, an economics professor at New York University, was it really her mother working who did this, or was it her mother getting an education? Which is a good point. I'm not bringing this up to say, gotcha!
Suck it, stay-at-home mums.
But to highlight that Abby's arguments are arbitrary. Being a stay-at-home mum is better because She says so. Despite that, I still would never dream of shaming a stay-at-home mum if she feels that's what's right for her family. Or hell, if it just is what makes her happy. You get one life. I'm not going to poop on your parade. And these studies I've just referenced merely demonstrate general social trends. They don't condemn stay-at-home mums as inferior. There are ways of being a stay-at-home mum without your son becoming a mini misogynist. I'm referring to how the study showed a correlation between sons who had working mothers and how much time they ended up spending on childcare once they became fathers. So, for example, sons raised by working mothers were significantly more likely to have a wife who worked, and sons of working mothers spent 7.5 more hours a week on childcare and 25 more minutes on housework. Ultimately, I don't think the aforementioned studies matter all that much in this discussion, because most parents, most mothers, don't have the luxury of choice. They do what's determined by their social, cultural, and economic situation. Like in the US and the UK, staying at home is considered a luxurious choice. However, in some parts of the world, you have no other choice. So what good is it in any of us making proclamations about what is superior motherhood? All it seems to do is make all mums on all ends of this feel inadequate. Also, let's just say, for the sake of argument, I'll humour you, Abby. Let's say that all the parenting experts, psychologists, child behaviourists come together with the consensus that you're right. What then?
Now, that's not to say that my community doesn't value being a stay-at-home mom, but my community also really values working women. So the priority list matters. And saying that it doesn't really undermines the women who have said this is the most important job and I'm going to put it at the top of my list.
Okay, Abby, you're the superior mummy. Here's your cookie. Everybody clap for Abby. Abby needs the recognition. Are you happy now, Abby? Now will you stop shaming people who aren't in your position, please?
So I talk a lot about how being a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job and it is the most important job, and that there is nothing more important that any woman could do. And I do believe that in my heart. But I was raised in the shadow of feminism, as pretty much all of you were, I'm guessing, all of the people who are watching this video. And so no matter what I know to be true in my heart, I struggle with feeling like I'm not fulfilling my potential, or like I'm not doing something important enough for people to like give me credit for.
Hey Abby, did you consider that women who work and are away from their kids feel the same kind of pressure? But in reverse, it's almost as if all women are being judged.
I think we all say it's true. Yeah,
There's a Desperate Housewives episode all about this, where Lynette is shamed by her mother-in-law for enjoying working. Also, I have an unpopular opinion. Tom Scavo sucks. Lynette deserved better. Fight me. Now, childless women. If you think you're safe from Abby's judgment, you've got another thing coming. In fact, you're even higher on her shit list.
Motherhood is a vocation worthy of respect, more than not motherhood. Okay?
Damn. She just came out and said it straight. As always, her arguments in this video are based off vibes.
If you think that being a mother is something that is a choice, in the sense that you could do it, you could take on this massive burden, and you could take on the massive responsibility of another person's life, or you could just continue to live for yourself and travel and party it up. If you call motherhood a choice, and this is why I'm saying I don't like the idea that motherhood is a choice, in the sense that motherhood is part of life. It's not something you could choose to do or not to do. It is a part and parcel of being a person, of being a woman.
This is so funny because people like her and her big brother Ben seethe over the people making different choices to them, and you can tell that it just really riles them up that they can't do anything about it. Well, I mean, apart from campaigning to take away their bodily autonomy, but they can't force people to choose to have kids. And isn't that delicious? I know I'm being petty, but can we just relish in that for a moment?
But what I'm really talking about are the people who are kind of selfishly questioning whether or not they want to have children at all, treating it like a choice to be made, something they can just ignore. They can just put off their fertility forever and always because who cares? They might as well stay hot and fit and focus on, honestly, everything that's just not important.
The blanket statement that people just don't want kids because they're selfish is wonderfully ironic, because I would argue that most of the reasons that people do want kids are selfish, myself included. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying that having kids outright is selfish, but let's be honest. There are people who have kids for the wrong reasons, bad reasons, I would argue. Like fixing a broken marriage, doing it just to give your parents grandkids, boredom, just to name a few.
The second thing is that it makes people better to have children. And if it doesn't, you need to reevaluate yourself and reevaluate your life. Having a child reminds you what you are for. If you are more worried about how your body is gonna look after you have a child than having a healthy child, for example, you have your priorities wrong.
And this is the pinnacle of selfishness. Testing out your character development on a human being. Using a child for your character arc.
Why can't a woman fulfill her potential at home raising her children? What does potential even mean? Why do I have to prove my potential to people who think of me as replaceable, rather than fulfilling my potential to the little humans I am raising who I literally could not be replaced? Like I was made to be their mother. They cannot replace me as their mother.
Maybe this is a problem, Abby. So encouraging everyone indiscriminately to have kids, even if they're woefully unsuited to it, is dangerous. Is that worth the gamble, Abby?
That life should not just be lived for the here and now, for you, for your parties, for your travel, for whatever.
I don't even disagree with this, but you can do so by volunteering in your community, putting out your creativity into the world, and serving society.
For many reasons. One is it is important for us as citizens of the world to shepherd the next generation, to shepherd our society towards the future. It's important.
You don't have to have kids to nurture the next generation. You know what's an excellent way to nurture the next generation? Attempt to tackle climate change? That would be nice. Oh no, the Shapiros don't like that.
We are reading the book Conservatism by Yoram Hazony for my book club. And in the book, Yoram Hazony talks about how we have kind of created a society that's all about how equal everyone is. And what he means by that is that every choice is equal. If you decide to go into the army and fight for your country, that is as valid as any other career you could choose. But what that means is that the jobs that we choose to do because they earn us respect, now don't earn us respect anymore because everything is equal. Nobody is better for having done something that is hard or important or worthy.
I wanted to add that clip because it's just categorically untrue.
Fortunately, I know a doctor, who's my wife.
Being a nurse does far more society than being a weird little conservative creator does. And they do more than what I do.
A woman in her 50s who's never had a child is obviously gonna look a lot different than a woman in her 50s who's had 3 or 4 children, but whose body was used for what it was supposed to be used for? I'm sorry, it's true.
It's important to highlight that she's specifically addressing women. Motherhood is a requirement of womanhood. But don't get it twisted. She doesn't want to shame childless women. It's totally fine for women to be unmarried and not have children, as long as if they feel like shit about it.
If you accept the main tenets of these traditional values as truth, and if you do, and you just haven't reached that point yet, that's totally fine.
I wonder if she holds men to this standard. Perhaps she does. But even if she does, this way of thinking hurts women more. Because statistically, they do most of the brunt work, even if they're working full time. Which in one video, she almost gets, but then doesn't.
How to clean and feel tidy at the end of the day. How to cook well and love and enjoy cooking. How to deal with time management. All of this is a craft.
So close. Oh, you were so close, Abby. It's important to also highlight that she really takes issue with how feminism and society portrays motherhood as difficult. Yeah, that's a problem for her.
It's not, motherhood and parenting is not about the fun and the joy, although it is incredibly joyful. But my issue lately with the internet and the way that we talk about motherhood is that we have to only talk about the negatives. It makes me crazy because I'll say, as a stay-at-home mom who's home with my son and who gets to spend all day with him, like, there is nothing I'd rather be doing and there is nothing better. It really is super fun and it is great.
She's the kind of person who looks at something at face value, then just stops thinking. How do you not see that and think, but why? Venting about the struggles of motherhood makes other mothers feel less alone and less like they're failing if they find it hard. Like it's a skill, it doesn't come naturally, and that's okay. Because it is hard, and it's hard for everyone, but some more than others, which I don't think you appreciate, Abby.
If you constantly are pitying yourself, rather than saying, you know what, everyone is going through the same thing I am, I had a hard day, guess what? Tina down the block, she also had a hard day.
Yes, Abby, there's difficult, like you having a bad day difficult, then there's like poverty difficult. So it's no wonder that some women are opting out. Some are opting out simply because they don't want to be mums, which is fine. Some are opting out even if they do want to, because everything is stacked against them, which isn't fine. But never mind if you make them feel worse, eh, Abby? Ugh, okay, I need a break. I think we could all do with a break. Okay, good break. Do you feel recuperated? This video has been much heavier than my previous videos on Abby. I suspect it's partly to do with her views becoming more egregious, or at least she's expressing them more openly now. But I also think it's because her content hits differently now. Back during her ad blitz, it was kind of a running joke amongst the commentary community on YouTube. We all collectively cringed at Ben Shapiro's sister, but now, in the aftermath of Roe v. Wade being repealed, and seeing the violent hate campaigns against trans people growing stronger day by day, seeing her so brazenly express her anti-choice and transphobic views while acting like she's being persecuted for said views is jarring, to say the least. You're getting everything you want, Abby. You're making money from your videos. Bodily autonomy is being robbed at a government level. Trans people are experiencing violence, denial of life-saving healthcare, and dying by suicide at disproportionate rates. But because you're getting mean comments on your videos, you're the victim. And listen, I will say that I don't know what it's like to be Abby. I don't know the ins and outs of her personal life. And some of her critics are more than critics. They are haters and trolls. I've seen her receive anti-Semitic comments about her appearance, and I've seen many instances of her being objectified. None of that is ever acceptable, no matter how hateful some of her views are. The fact that there are men who claim to be leftists while revoking their feminist ally cards if the woman in question is a conservative infuriates me. And this is why I haven't ragged on her modesty-related content in this video. I have moved on this topic. I mean, her implying that leggings are slutty is still very funny and inherently absurd.
That leggings are inappropriate unless you are at the gym or you're wearing a long tunic or something over it, because they show a lot of a region that is distracting, and I don't think that it's very appropriate.
Okay, so it looks like today's outfit is out. But after seeing the way she's been objectified, I understand why she might feel safer hiding her body. The tragic irony, though, in this modesty mindset is that no one is safe from being objectified, no matter how they dress or present themselves. If misogynists want to objectify you, they will. And that's sadly been the case for Abby. As for the comments criticizing her arguments and uninformed opinions, there's plenty. And even if I think she's wrong, I must imagine it is emotionally draining to see all that all the time. I'm very lucky in that so far, the top comments on my videos are almost always positive engagement. Now, I'm sure that won't always be the case. I'm sure there will be a time where I cock up massively and you will make sure I know about it, which is good, because you should. And at one point I did even feel for her because I was like, why would you even post at this point? But at this point, my sympathy is limited because those comments don't do the kind of damage that broadcasting transphobic views does, that spreading misinformation on abortion and birth control does, that shaming mothers who have no choice but to work and be away from their kids does, what it does to their mental health, the inequalities it ignores and thereby propagates. Abby's videos don't even get that many views, despite her ad blitz and being a nepotism sibling. But they get enough views to do damage. And that's why I'm not sorry about making this video. So no ukulele today, folks. The Let's Be Classic movement flopped. It didn't take off in 2020 and it's not gonna take off in 2023, Abby. Stop trying to make it happen. Anyways, I really hope you enjoyed this. And to be clear, I do not want any of you to go to Abby's comments or socials. Leave her alone. Keep the discussion respectful, and any comments that, make personal attacks will be deleted. So post wisely. On a brighter note, thank you to my patrons, and here is today's subscription Pet Shoutout. So today we've got two lovely doggies, and we haven't had dogs in a while. So we've got Bogey, 2 years old, and Shots, 4 months old, who are both chi mixes. They are both adopted because no one else wanted them, but they are the sweetest dogs you'll ever meet. And the owner mentioned this. I know that Chihuahuas have a rep for being assholes, but I promise ours aren't. And this is a huge misconception. Siggy's best friend, Hattie, is a therapy dog, and she has volunteered at Great Ormond Street Hospital because she's amazing and lovely and the most well-behaved dog ever, and she never barks. So stop hating on Chihuahuas. They are best friends and love to cuddle. They play together all day and wreak havoc on each other. They're excellent with kids and love to meet new dogs. Bogey and Shots don't know you, but I promise they love you. And if that doesn't deserve a round of applause, I don't know what does. Okay, right. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.